and let us all do we can to build a better future.
Right. Well, interesting story from the Washington Post. As we know, there have been a lot of companies that have been declaring Chapter 11 bankruptcy. That's that major bankruptcy,
that major corporations that are really seriously in debt due. It's a reorganization plan. Now, the curious thing that they're finding is like these major brands, like J.C. Penney and Hertz,
were issuing 6- and 7-figure payouts to their executives before seeking bankruptcy protection. Points out here that I think it was 18 large companies. It says right here in the article. And by the way, you can always check out the links to our show, our show sources in the show notes that are right below this the video. We do this so that you can follow along, that you can do your own reading and research. It keeps us accountable, and that way you can learn more about these stories. And this is just, it's egregious. It's egregious what's going on. So here's the thing. If you file personal bankruptcy, not Chapter 11, but personal bankruptcy, say, Chapter 7 or Chapter 13, one of us goes bankrupt, okay? We have to go to a bankruptcy trustee. We got our lawyer there. And the bankruptcy trustee is going to pay really close attention to what we've been doing with our money for the past several months, at least up to a year. It depends on the state that you're in, okay? And if they start seeing that you were, say, squandering funds, or even that you started paying back family members, if you had borrowed from family members and you were paying them back, and it's within that certain time frame before you file for bankruptcy, that bankruptcy trustee can go and sue those family members to get that money back, because the idea is that's money that should have been in the bankruptcy estate, that should have been that should have been something that should have been paid out to all your creditors. You did not have that. Your finances were already out of control at that point, and it's not up to you at that point to just pick and choose who you pay back. Instead, that should have been handed over to the bankruptcy trustee, who could have taken care of that for you. But funnily enough, the executives of failing companies can bypass all this. And, what I'm noticing is that it's the executives. It's not, say, the workers. It's not a company saying, well, by golly, our company is failing. Maybe it's our fault. Maybe it's the market. It's, maybe there's a bunch of other factors involved. But we want to make sure that our long-term employees, particularly those who don't have a lot of money, are going to have a cushion. So we're going to, say, pay out Thanksgiving bonuses or birthday bonuses, or we're going to give them some cushion cash so that when we emerge from Chapter 11, and hopefully emerge from Chapter 11, our workers have been taken care of, even if we have to do some cutting or layoffs or a merger or something like that. No, that never seems to be on their mind. It is, we're going to compensate the executives. And they wonder why people have this anti-corporate sentiment in this country.
I wonder why. It's like the things that they do, we're just paying attention.
Looking at this again, it's just, the top 1% and corporate media, they're always going to wonder, well, why are people protesting? Why are even people, going into retail stores and demolishing the place? Well, because, we created a society where the lower class gets nothing, the working class gets nothing, but the top 1%, the high society gets their little special bonuses because what? They're so special? I mean, why does the man in a suit and tie deserve a bonus when those people, those executives, were the ones that led to the company to fail? Well, a law should be, hey, if you're the boss, if you are the chief of a business, well, guess what? If it fails, you get nothing. Wouldn't that sound great? Wouldn't that be great?
It sounds like Willy Wonka.
By the way, I just want to point out, Kit was specifically targeting people in suit and ties, and today he's not wearing a suit and tie. Coincidence?
I don't wear ties.
It's a thing. It happens sometimes.
There's an article. There's an example in this article. A woman named Utopia Hornbuckle. She's 49 years old. She was working at Chuck E. Cheese's corporate office. She had a part-time position booking birthday parties. She was able to, she'd been homeless, she was now able to afford a motel room. She would hope that she and her daughter and her 3 grandchildren would be able to get a 1-bedroom apartment to
My
share.
God.
And on March 17th, she was furloughed from a $12.50 an hour job. And then in 6 months later, she's been laid off. And Chuck E. Cheese has filed for bankruptcy, citing $2 billion in debt, but at first awarded nearly $3 million in bonuses to top executives, including $1.3 million to chief executive David McKillips,
He needs to
who
be.
had been with the company for less than 5 months.
So I'm going to say
Wow.
2 things. He needs to be called the cheese executive, and if they're not paid in Chuck E. Cheese tickets, I'm going to be really upset.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, I don't trust an institution that has a Skaven as their mascot.
Shout out to the 3 people who got that reference.
Look, I don't necessarily have, okay, so we've got like J.C. Penney, which has been on the downswing for well over a decade, okay? I've been following the travails of J.C. Penney. J.C. Penney, I'm sorry to say it, has an outdated business model. It doesn't work anymore, and they should have been allowed to die a long time ago. They pointed out, for example, before filing for bankruptcy this year, J.C. Penney paid out $7.5 million in bonuses to 4 executives.
It's so crazy that it's like these. Here's the other thing that they're like, oh, you need to have your golden parachute because, you got to land safely. I mean, the workers, whatever. This, again, goes back to things we've talked about before about how corporations moved from a stakeholder-based existence to a shareholder-based existence. So they're very much top-down. Executives get to do whatever they want, et cetera, the stuff that we've always seen. But, like, with so many corporations closing or getting shut down, at some point, they may actually need a parachute because there just aren't enough CEO titles anymore because we've consolidated into like 5 companies or something. You only get 1 CEO per company, and it's like it's tough if you're a regular business. And even going back to what we were saying earlier with like all the news, we're like, oh, Walgreens is getting looted. Oh no, Walgreens is insured.
Yeah.
They're not worried at all.
Walmart's
They're going to
insured.
survive. But what they don't cover all that much, or they just glance by, is the mom and pop businesses who aren't insured, or their insurance won't cover them, is they don't have a team of lawyers to do something about it, and the cost of the damage is less than hiring said team of lawyers. Whereas Walgreens, they have them on staff already. They're good to go. So and this is what, especially when the pandemic does, and it's a place that, we really want to move, but we're doing too in Chicago Corner is covering these things. Because I think a lot of this, we have to be able to do something about it, and we have to do what we can to do that. So,
Back during the meltdown that happened in 2008, we got word that we were going to all be losing our jobs. The day that over 200 people lost their jobs, and that's adding to, I think, a couple hundred people who had lost their jobs from a different division before, because they decided to relocate our offices from Chicago to a much cheaper area up in Wisconsin. On that very day that we all lost our jobs, in the middle of a major economic meltdown, the CEO of the company announced his resignation and received, I want to say, something in the neighborhood of $73 million to do so.
Wow.
Now, I will say this. The CEO in this case had taken the company to a place where it was never expected to go. It was a tiny little place, a company. He took it so it became huge. But there were missteps, and the company was losing money. It was part of an even larger company. And I'll just say it was part of the Washington Post. And it was responsible for about half of its revenue. But the guy, the CEO, at the age of 43, was able to got his golden parachute over 70 mil, and he said he was going to go into philanthropy. And we're all sitting here like this, okay. And some of us were able to bounce back. I was able to take my life in a completely different direction. It was actually, in my case, okay. There were other people who did not, who could not bounce back, or who did not bounce back, and it was a serious situation for them. But the point is this. if a company is going to go into Chapter 11, frankly, let's hold them to the same standards that we hold people who are going into personal bankruptcy, because after all, corporations are people, right?
Just gonna say, yeah.
If corporations are people, why shouldn't they have the same kind of scrutiny? Now, granted, bankruptcy, Chapter 11 bankruptcy is a reorganization. It's not the kind of dischargeability that you see with personal bankruptcy debt. But when it comes down to people's day-to-day lives, and what I think most of us would agree is true and good and right, being able to lavish huge payouts on executives, in one case, somebody who was there for 5 months, that's a real problem.
Yeah.
Be nice if they paid 5 months' salary.
Yeah, fine with me. I don't care about that. We've got people right now in Illinois who still are not getting their unemployment insurance benefits that they've earned and paid into through payroll taxes for the very simple reason that our unemployment systems are completely screwed. They're antiquated. They don't operate properly. The unemployment agencies are understaffed. And so we've got people who can't even get the money to which they are entitled because of the failure to invest in our regulatory infrastructure in this country, and yet we've got this happening. This should make everybody very, very angry, and I know that I am.
I think we